Hey, everybody, welcome to Breakfast All Day. Christy, Alonso, getting caught up with France's Les Misérables, which is up for the Best Foreign Film Oscar.
Yes, they're calling it international film now, I think.
Oh, really?
I think so. Like we are. Like we at LA Film Critics are also calling it international
The
film.
plaque that I gave out says foreign language film.
Oh, well. Well, we need to catch up. Anyway, it's not from America.
Yes, it's not. It's also not based on the Victor Hugo novel, despite what the title might lead you to think.
Although
it is inspired by it and carries a lot of the same ideas about, the downtrodden.
Right, and it takes place physically in the same neighborhood where Victor Hugo wrote Les Miserables, which is why there's a school that they reference that is like Victor Hugo Elementary or something like that.
Right.
Shall I describe it?
Please.
Okay. So it's several threads that all come together in this explosive climax. It is about these police officers who patrol this segment of Paris that is very poor and very dangerous and just infested with violence. It is about, and then there's a new corporal who is coming into this precinct and tagging along with these two officers who have been there for a while, who are kind of jaded and are kind of cowboys, and they kind of go outside the law of what they're supposed to do to get the job done.
One black, one white.
Yeah, but they've been doing it for a long time.
And the neighborhood is mostly African Muslim.
Yes, and then there are kids who run around the streets and get into trouble, and run around the projects and get into trouble, and some of it's harmless kid fun and some of it is more extreme than that. And then there are Muslims in the neighborhood who serve as kind of father figures to these kids, but also are kind of trying to bring them into the fold and recruit them somewhat and serve as more. And it's the clash between all three of these different groups in the community, and how they all lead up to one explosive showdown. It all takes place over the course of about 24 hours, from one morning to the next morning.
It's very much a day in the life kind of film.
And it's really intense. And it's Ladj, it's his debut film.
Wow.
And it is shot with the immediacy and intensity of a documentary. You truly feel like you were in the middle of this, but with the drive of a narrative feature. And it really combines those two elements so skillfully.
I have seen it compared to Do the Right Thing, which I think is an interesting comparison.
I can see that.
It's the sort of thing of like, what are the individual sort of discrete elements that create a riot, or that create a moment of explosive violence, or that create, this sort of upheaval. And you kind of follow all these threads along, and where they sort of cross, and how people respond, and what people do. And, does this side overreact? Does that side, push back too hard, that sort of thing. And so, it is this kind of fascinating, almost sort of autopsy of like, if you took this moment and worked backwards to all the places that we got there, and then, followed them all.
How could it have been avoided?
Yeah, exactly. And you see all these little places where, like, if somebody had made a different decision, then it would have de-escalated, or something else would have happened. But it becomes this sort of perfect storm.
Mm-hmm. It's inspired by the riots that took place in Paris in 2005.
Yes.
Which I guess Ladj saw outside of his window, and it reminded him of Les Miserables, and that's why he wrote this. But what's interesting is that it's bookended by a different kind of massive, excited crowd moment where all these Parisians of different ages and backgrounds all go into the streets to cheer. It must be like the World Cup or something.
Yeah, some big football
It's
match.
some big soccer match, and they're all like with flags in the streets, and you see the Arc de Triomphe in the background, and like they're packing the streets and jumping up and down and climbing all over each other, and it's pure joy. It's pure celebratory joy, and that is the beginning of the film. And it's almost like, here's what could be. Here's what could have been. Here's an example of all these different segments of society getting together for a common good and for a common, shared energy.
Right.
And here's at the end what's actually going to happen. And there's a bittersweet element to that.
Yeah, and it's, they specifically reference the 2005 riots, and the movie is sort of both kind of saying like, these things happen because of XYZ, and at the same time sort of saying like, these things happen because they are, for a lot of people, the only sort of voice they have to talk about, to register complaint, to sort of talk about the tiny aggressions that stack up, over time. And also they are futile.
Mm-hmm.
and they aren't going to solve anything, and they aren't really going to change anything for the communities involved, and that's a tragedy, but they're still going to happen anyway, because when you push people, this is what they get pushed to do.
Right? People are poor and they are desperate and they are trying to survive. And one thing that the film does so well is that toward the end of the first day, it goes home with each of those 3 cops. And so you get a bit of an insight into who they are and perhaps why they make the decisions that they make. And so the black cop of the 3 is of Muslim descent. His the other language they're speaking besides French is what they speak in Mali.
Yes, which is where the filmmaker's from.
Okay,
yeah.
And so you see him at home with his mom, and then you see the cop of the 3 who is like kind of like the biggest asshole and the most brazen in terms of flouting his authority and really being abusive just for fun. And you see that he does the same, not to that extent, but he's dismissive and kind of verbally abrupt with his own children. And like all he wants to do is stand on the couch and drink a beer. And he's like emotionally disconnected from everybody. Yeah. And it's almost like there's no hope for this guy. Like he's not going to be fixed. And then in the middle of them is the guy who is sort of our conduit, the Corporal Ruiz, who is our eyes and ears, who is like shocked that this is just a normal day in this precinct. Like the other cops don't think this is anything big. And he's like, is this how every day is for you guys? It shouldn't be like this. And he has moved into this neighborhood. He's in the middle of a divorce. He wants to be closer to his sons. That's why he moved there. So he's still got boxes he hasn't unpacked. And so he is totally in flux the way we all feel like we are in flux watching this film. And it's sort of because he's insecure and on edge, it makes us feel that way as well. So there's a great tension from the very beginning because of that. It's very stressful and very tense, but very like it's a simple story though. Yeah, it's these 3 threads and they come together and boom.
Yeah. So this movie is up for an Academy Award, so that might make it get a larger release than it might otherwise have. Right. So be on the lookout for it. If not, it is an Amazon Studios movie, so it will be coming to them on streaming at some point in the next few months. So you will have a chance to see this movie sooner, later, if not sooner.
And you should.
Absolutely, okay. Yeah. What are your numbers?
I'm saying 8.
I said 7.5.
Okay, our number is 7.8. It's at 83% on the tomato meter.
Yeah. So check that one out. Thank you for watching this, by the way, and like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on the social medias at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We'll be talking about trailers. This week we are kicking off our discussion of HBO's The Outsider, which is a really cool show, and we're going to have plenty to say about that, so you'll want to check that out. Thanks for watching. Christy, what's coming up on a la carte?
Courtney Friel, who is a longtime television reporter and anchor. She's here in Los Angeles at KTLA. She has written a book called Tonight at 10. She's been sober for 10 years, and so it's all about her crazy drinking stories and how she functions now. She's also a meme. Have you ever seen that meme where there's a pretty blonde reporter who makes a little boy cry? Have you seen that?
Yes.
That's Courtney.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, so we had a nice talk, and she's quite lovely. And we talked about Bombshell because she used to work at Fox News Channel, and she looks exactly like Margot Robbie. But she's not the inspiration for Margot Robbie's character. But she had lots of insights into Bombshell, into watching that.
All right, cool.
It was very fun talking to her.
Cool. All right, well, check that out, you guys, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.